Ah, good evening, afternoon, good morning, and all that good stuff. Welcome to the second episode of What's Cooking with Big Poppi. Guess what?
Chicken butt?
Yes, chicken butts, but that is not what we're cooking ever on this show. We are never cooking chicken butts. What we're going to do this evening is something Miss Sonia and I have made dozens and dozens and dozens of times. It's really awesome and it's really easy. It's beer bread. It makes incredible bread for toast, grilled cheese sandwiches, and it's amazing hot right out of the oven. It's got melted butter on it and all that. And I guess I'll go into it a little bit and we'll get started here. So to get rolling on it, I love this recipe because it's only got just a handful of ingredients. Wait,
We'll edit that. It's okay.
okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I really like this recipe because it's only got a few ingredients, and you don't need a bread machine. You don't have to have all this yeast. You don't have to have all this times to let it rise and all that. You just mix it in a bowl, put it in the pan, put it in the oven, and you're done. I like simple in the kitchen, and that's what we're going to do. So we'll start off with the basics for this recipe. 3 cups of flour. And we're using regular flour for this. But you can also use self-rising flour, and the recipe gets a little even easier, believe it or not. And you can see from what we're using here, we have spared no expense with the ingredients for this show. That is until we get a national corporate sponsor that can provide us some top-notch ingredients. So 3 cups of flour, just whatever you have, and then 4.5 teaspoons of baking powder and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And that's what Sonia likes. She makes me buy this. It works really well. And my faithful assistant is rolling her eyes right now. Put that in there.
Now, what if you only have self-rising flour?
If you only have self-rising flour, which is this, you're in luck because it's super easy. You just need beer, sugar, and the self-rising flour.
So the baking powder and the salt was to make self-rising flour?
Yeah, it kind of makes the self-rising flour all by itself.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's really simple. So we've got the salt and the sugar already in. Give that a quick little mix.
Okay, we don't have sugar.
Okay, and my trusty assistant wasn't so trusty and didn't get me my 1/2 cup of sugar. So here's the 1/2 cup of sugar. Now we're all ready to go. And this is the part where Sonia and I, we do this differently than each other. I just dump the beer in and mix it. She pours it all in nice and gently so that it doesn't get foamy or anything like that. I don't care. I just dump it in. And I usually use just whatever light beer that I have. But there's other beers that you can use for this. I also like to use a real dark beer, especially like Oktoberfest beer in the fall when it comes around, because it gives the bread a really dark look. It makes it real brown inside, and it gives it a real sweet caramelly flavor. So, but we'll do that. We're going to make both of them. But for this one, we get this rolling. I know she is rolling her eyes at me right now for the way I just dumped that in there. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to use a KitchenAid mixer. You don't have to use anything like that. It mixes up really quick. Once you get it all wet and all mixed in and incorporated, all you really got to do is just put it back into a pan and you're ready to let it cook. So I'm going to stir this around for a minute or two, and I'll be back and show you how we put it in the pan and then throw it in the oven. Okay, and we're back. So while we were gone, Sonia put this one in the pan, which was the regular beer, and then I mixed up this one with the dark brown beer, and it's very wet and stringy in consistency, and people be like, I don't think that's the right consistency, but this is what it's supposed to be like. And it doesn't ever look perfect when you put it in the pan. You just kind of have to mat it down a little bit. Hers always looks nicer than mine because that's how Sonia does stuff. And it's okay if it's lumpy on top, because that's gonna, a later step, we're gonna melt some butter right before this is done, and we're gonna put it on top of this bread, and it's gonna get the top all nice and dark and brown and a little crusty on top, and that's what makes it so tasty. So now we are at the point where we're gonna throw these in the oven at 350 for about 40 to 50 minutes. And right before they're done, we're gonna pull them out, melt some butter, and put it all over the top of them, and throw them back in the oven for about 10 minutes or so, and let that get all brown and a little crispy on top. And we'll pull them out and see what they look like. And we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, we're back. So the bread has been in the oven for 50 minutes. Yes. And instead of just melting it, we're just going to take regular butter and just slather it on there, because the bread is pretty hot right now, and it's just going to melt it on there itself. And Sonia does a good job of this. This is her part of the bread making, because she's more the artist than I am. I'm just kind of like a bulldozer. And once we get it all on there, it gets in all those little nooks and crannies. And that's why I said earlier, it's not real important to get the bread perfectly smooth on the top, because the melted butter will get in there and get it. It's going to end up, when we bring it out, making it nice and brown and give it so much good flavor. So what we'll do, now that she's got that done, we'll pop that one back in the oven for about another 10 minutes and we'll be done. We'll see you in just a little bit. Hey, and now we have both of the loaves of bread out of the oven. I just kind of dump it like that. So, in all honesty, this one we cooked regular, just for the 50 minutes, and then put some butter on top of it. This is the one with the light beer. And this one is the one with the dark beer, and we like our bread a little browner, a little crispier on the top. So what we did is, once we put the butter on there, we let it cook for another 10 minutes. And then we turned the broiler on high, and we let it sit in there for a couple minutes. But that's dangerous. You really gotta, you can't walk away and get distracted, because you will ruin your entire loaf of bread. It may or may not have happened in the past, but it is dangerous. So let's see how we did and see what this stuff looks like. I will say, this knife I got from my grandmother through my mom. This knife is probably like 40 years old. It's the best bread knife ever, just in case anyone wants to know. Man, hot stuff. You can probably see the steam coming out of it. Stuff tastes so good. It's moist. It's hot. Real hot. Has such a good crust on it. I think if you guys try this, you will never go back to store-bought bread if you can manage it, because this is better than anything else that you guys will ever have. So thanks to my assistant And thanks to you guys for watching this. We are going to make some grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner and eat up.